Greetings, family. This is Neil with another episode of Keeping Your Best Love. Now, this is part two of the series. The first one we did was things that you need to know or make clear before you get married. Things you need to know and make clear before you get married. Well, this is part two, and this is the reasons that you should not get married. Now, let's start from the beginning. Love is not enough. Just because you're madly in love with someone does not mean that you necessarily belong with that person. Okay, so love is just the beginning. Love opens up the doors of consideration, but love alone is not a reason to get married. Okay, so we're going to look at 6 reasons not to marry a person. The first thing is lust. Some people get married because the sex is so good that they just gotta have that person on a sexual level. Or they might be in the church and they're afraid of fornication. So we can't control ourselves. We can't wait till we get married. So we're just gonna fornicate. Well, if that's what you believe in, then that's something that you need to visit on an individual basis with your pastor or your rabbi or your leader or whatever to kind of get some guidance on that. But the physical element of a marriage is only a very small portion of it. Actually, what what sex does for a marriage, it enhances the marriage. It's not the marriage. It's not one of the components of marriage, but it enhances the marriage. The first thing a therapist would ask you, a counselor or a mediator or someone that's in charge of your marriage or being a guide to your marriage, the first thing they want to know is how's your sex life. They want to know about that. So that's an important component, but that cannot be a reason to marry a person. All right. The next one, number 2, some people get married out of obligation. Maybe you two have gotten pregnant and had a child and say, okay, and your parents are like, well, y'all need to get married. That's not a reason. Just because you produce a child does not mean you make a good husband and wife. Now, definitely you have to become good parents. Do your best to become a good parent, but just because you have a child with somebody does not mean that you need to marry that person. Because if you marry someone and raise a child in a horrible environment because you guys are fighting and arguing the whole time, can't get along, contemplating divorce and all that, and trying to keep a marriage together because of a child, it's going to harm the child more than anything else, because all that negative energy that you're dealing with, when you're dealing with misery and fear and anger and guilt and resentfulness, all those things are poison to a child's brain or to their being. So that is not a reason to get married, is because you have a child together. Now, granted, now it's a good reason to marry because of a child if you guys have, and we talked about in the other series about reasons, things you need to make clear before you get married. But if things are right between you all, and that's a very, very loose term, that you're right for marriage, I think that having a child is a good reason to take a stab at a good relationship, because it's very important. No one can nurture that child like a mother, their mother. No one can guide and affirm that child like their father. There's just something about the biological connection. So that is a good reason to try to make a relationship work, but it's not a reason to get married. Number 3, some people marry out for convenience. Okay, Let's get together, put our money together, and have a household. And it's just convenient to get married, where you get together, put your finances together, or use each other's credit. I've heard of people get married because they done messed all their utility bills up, and their significant other haven't had any electric bill, Duke Power bills, or anything like that. So their name was clear. So they got married so they can use each other for credit and for ability to cut on bills. And of course, those people they got divorced. It took them a while, but they did get divorced. Uh, Another thing is huge. People get married for finances. There are women out there that all they do is try to find a baller, somebody that's in the NBA, or somebody that has a good business career, or somebody that's got it going on with the fancy cars and the jewels and the fat bank accounts and all that. And that's what they do. That's their job. They find out where the ballers are, and they either try to get pregnant by them or try to get married, try to marry him or whatever. So they just have a meal ticket for the rest of their life. And that's pretty prevalent. Some of those women won't even entertain a guy, won't even give out her phone number unless he has a certain income bracket. Now, granted, that may be a solution for the short term, but long term, one thing I tell you about guys like that, ladies, is that they have a lot of money. That means they have a lot of options, regardless of how they look. They have a lot of options. So they can just use you up and spit you out. Or if you happen to land the guy and get married to the guy, and let's say he's not an alpha male, he's a beta male, and you're able to manipulate him into thinking that you're the one for him and you love him and that you'll be there for him, but you really don't. You just want him for your money. At some point, you're not going to have your needs met. Your physical needs, your emotional needs. He's going to become boring to you. You're going to feel like a prisoner in your own home. And it's not worth it. You can lose you can have, back up. If money was the key to a successful marriage, why are all these rich people getting divorced? Why are all these rich celebrities getting divorced? All these rich athletes getting divorced? Money is not the key to happiness. It's a short-term solution to a big problem. The big problem is you just won't do what you need to do to make your own money. So marrying somebody for money is just it's self-degrading. You might find yourself cheating on the guy or whatever. Flip it. Let's say a man marries a woman because she's very affluent and has a lot of money. Okay. Now, somewhere along the way, men that do that, and she knows that you just married her for her money, she's gonna talk down to you. She's never gonna respect you. She's gonna talk to you like a child, treat you like a child, and throw the fact that you're not productive in your face. You become a Mr. Mom. And granted, you may be happy, sitting on the couch, playing a video game, eating up all the food or whatever. But at some point, you're gonna have to carry your own weight, and that affluent woman's gonna get tired of you, and she's gonna want you to be productive. And then let's say she doesn't. Let's say she just puts up with it. Sometimes, granted, there are some women out there that look for broke men or look for men with low self-esteem, look for beta men just so they can order them around and they don't have to try. Because think about it like this, ladies. If you go up to your man and say you're not pulling your weight, you're sorry or whatever, and he's not really doing it, he really can't say anything. But if he's pulling his own weight, making his own money, making ends meet, doing what he's supposed to do, you really can't say nothing to him. So, you broke ass, you talk to him in a bad way, and he's like, I ain't broke. I'm good. Look, honey, I'm doing fine without you. Matter of fact, I need you to step up. You need to earn your keep. And some women can't handle that. You know, so and then you got some sorry men out there that all they want to do is mooch off of women and not do nothing at all. So, in a nutshell, it's not good to marry for money. Another reason not to marry a person, and this is pretty sticky, but you do not marry a person till you figure out how they fight. Woo, that's a big one. You need to know how they fight. So when you get into a disagreement, do they lie? Do they tell the truth? Do they get physical? Do they want to go upside your head with a frying pan? Do they want to smack you in the face because the food is not cooked properly or it's cold? What is it? Are they argumentative? Are they difficult? How do they behave when they're out of control? Some people can be mad, upset, but how do they act when they're angry? Can you handle that person? If y'all ain't got to no big fight or big disagreement, y'all might need to hold off on marriage for a while till you see how they fight and see if you can handle that person. When the representative is gone, things ain't going right, and you need to get things going in the right direction. Are you able to calm that person down and communicate with that person, or are they just going to be just difficult? You need to understand how they fight before you marry them. If you find out how they fight after you get married and you can't handle it, then you got to deal with divorce. You got to deal with alimony. You got to deal with child support. You got all types of stuff you got to deal with. So that's very important that you know how they fight. The other piece to that, you have to know how much that person is willing, able, and deliberately pushing your buttons to make you upset. Is there respect there to where they value your opinion? Do they treat you like you deserve to be treated? Do they treat you with your self-worth? How do they treat you? That's huge. That goes right along with knowing how they fight. Do they talk down to you? Do they preach down to you? Do they insult your intelligence? Do they call you out of your name? Do they put their hands on you? You need to know how that person fights. You need to know how that person views you. I mean, they may view you fine when things are going right and things are going the way you want them to, but when things start going left, how do they treat you? How do you treat them? You need to know these things before you get married. Some people, number 5, they get married out of fear of being alone. They'll settle for something or someone that doesn't quite meet their standards just not to be alone. Nobody wants to die alone. But what you don't understand is if you marry a person that treats you less than what you're worth or are not up to your standards, you're stuck with that person. And you'll be miserable. You have to, here's the thing. People that marry people below their standards don't really have a good relationship with themselves. And the reason why I say that is because they feel they can't do no better. I'll settle for less because I don't feel that I can do any better because I'm not making the right amount of money, or I got low self-esteem, or I'm overweight, or whatever silly thing you can come up with that makes you not look at yourself the way you need to look at yourself. So what you do, you go and you settle for someone just not to be lonely. And that is not a sustainable relationship. So do not marry someone that's below your standards. Do not marry somebody that treats you less than what your self-worth is, because those situations are not sustainable. So stay away from that. Number 6, some people get married to solve problems. What I mean by that, some people, and I'm going to go ahead and on a limb and say women, think that if they marry the guy and they give him this sweet loving, I don't care how sweet your loving is or how great the marriage is, you're not going to change a person. Things are not going to get better. What people don't understand about marriage is when you marry someone, you're going to get the worst of them. The worst of them. What do I mean by that? Once the representative is gone, they talk to strangers better than they talk to you. If they're going to be an alcoholic, they'll be an alcoholic in front of you. Or if they're a drug user, they'll be a drug user in front of you. If they're going to be a womanizer or a loose woman, you're going to see all of that. Because why? Because you're with them all the time. So you have to understand that marrying someone doesn't solve any problems at all. It may even make them worse. Men, on the other hand, we marry a woman because we want them to stay the same. We want them to stay our girlfriend. Because with a girlfriend, especially when there's no kids involved, you get all the loving you want. You have their total and complete attention, and you can have fun together, quality time together, and she's all into you. Now, if you go into that situation and you start having kids, there's something in the woman's maternal instinct that switches from girlfriend and wife to mother. And the mothering of that child becomes her priority. And she may forget that she has a husband over there. You know, she may have the husband to help change the diapers, buy the formula, buy the diapers or whatever. But as far as treating him like her man or her boyfriend, she may lose that. So men, you have to be mindful of that and understand that mode. And y'all need to talk about it. Where, honey, let me help you with the household duties. Let me help you with the chores of raising a child. And it is a chore to raise a child. Let me help you with that. And then maybe when you take some of the weight off of her, then maybe she'll have more time for you. And make that clear. Flip it. Just because you become a mother does not mean you neglect your husband. Because, honey, let me tell you something. You neglect your husband enough, you're going to run him right there in the street. You're going to run him right into the arms of another woman. Or you're going to make him so miserable that he's going to be good for nothing. Because he fell in love with you from the beginning. So once you start having children, do not forget that you have a husband. All right? So in the review, out of the 6, the first one being reasons not to marry. Do not marry him out of lust or fear of fornication. Do not marry someone out of obligation or being rushed by the parents or being rushed by the other person. Do not marry for convenience. Don't marry someone until you figure out how they fight. Do not marry somebody of fear of being alone. And the 6th one is do not marry someone to solve problems. So that's part number 2. Part 3 will be reasons to marry someone. Okay? So that'll be part 3, and that'll be coming back to you probably early part of next week. So again, my name is Neil. You can comment below. You can subscribe to my YouTube channel to get access to my videos, or you can email me directly at coachingrelationships@yahoo.com. So again, peace and hair grease, and y'all have a happy and prosperous new year.